Hey guys, this is Jason Ladanye. Welcome to the Confident Deceptions DVD set. I wanted to take a moment and explain how this DVD works. Of course, we have all of the performances together and all the explanations together. But to save time on the explanations, we purposely left out a few moves. The pinky count, the spread call, and a false shuffle. So we've included a Utilities Moves folder where we can go more in depth with those three moves. That being said, enjoy the DVD. Let's get into it. Krista, I want your help for this one. What I want you to do is give these cards a quick shuffle like I'm doing, okay? And while you're shuffling the cards, I want you to think of any card in the deck, but make it a number card, not a picture card, okay? That shuffle just gets me every time.
She's good.
Very, very good. And what I want you to do, I can't shuffle cards like that. I want you to name any card that you want in the deck, but I just want to show off first because I can shuffle cards like this. Okay, anyway, I just had to level the playing field. Name any card that you want in the deck.
7 of clubs.
7 of clubs. We're going to use the 7 of clubs for this, but in a moment you're just going to say, well, he had more than one 7 of clubs in the deck. So I want to make sure that we know that this 7 of clubs is unique because I want you to take this pen and sign your name across the face of the card. That's important, okay? In really big letters. Excellent. You see the pen? Now, next time you see that 7, you know it has to be the same 7 of clubs. I'll take that 7 and shuffle it into the deck. Now, do you play cards at all?
Little.
A little bit. You should know that after you shuffle the cards, you always cut the cards. That keeps things honest. So that 7 of clubs doesn't end up on the top of the deck, and that 7 of clubs doesn't end up on the bottom of the deck.
Okay.
Well, let's say I was playing poker, and I needed that 7 of clubs to win. You know what I would do? Probably just cheat. Watch. If I take the top of the deck, tap it like this, in an instant, the 7 of clubs appears on the top of the deck. Now, don't be confused. I'll do it again. I'm going to take that 7 of clubs, I'll leave it in the center of the deck, right back where it was. I mean, so obviously, right, it's not on the top, it's not on the bottom. Yeah. But if I had money riding on that 7, I just tap the top of the deck, no matter where it is, it comes back to the top of the deck. Now, you look confused. Don't be confused. It looks like you understand the in it goes part.
Right.
You just don't understand the up it comes part. Can you turn that card over? All right. Now, I was joking about slowing it down. I really will slow it down this time. I'm going to take that 7 of clubs, the one that's got your handwriting. It's definitely your handwriting.
Yeah.
I will leave that 7 of clubs more or less in the center of the deck, and I'm going to place all of that in the center of the deck. So I'm in the center of the center. You cannot get much more in the center than that. No. So there's no way possible that I could get that 7 of clubs back to the top of the deck. No, I mean, there's no way possible. Because I haven't tapped yet. If I tap, you see, that's when it comes up to the top.
Oh my God.
Right. Now, can you help me with this? It's so easy. I'm going to take that 7 of clubs. There's only one of these in the world. I'm going to leave it in the center of the deck. And can you verify that's about the center, right?
Yeah.
So, guys, it's not on the top. It's not on the bottom. Just tap the top of the deck for me. Do you think it worked? With the deck in my hands, it'll always work. Now, at the beginning of this trick, didn't I ask you to name any card that you wanted?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that you were going to name the 7 of clubs, right?
Right.
But if you and me were playing poker, I'd probably already have this 7. I'd probably already have this 7. And I'd probably already have this 7. But this is the one that I want, the one that's got your handwriting on it. I'm going to leave it sticking out of the center, so it's almost impossible to deal myself.
Mm-hmm.
The card on top of the deck right now happens to be the 9 of spades. I don't need the 9 of spades, but I'll use that 9 of spades to tap in your card. I'm not even touching your card. There's no way I can manipulate that card at all. So there's no way possible that I can get that 7 back to the top of the deck.
Oh, no way. What? What?
So here's my version of ambitious card. I know what you're thinking. The world needs one more ambitious card routine. But I'll show you why I enjoy doing my handling of this. It really comes down to the ending. In ambitious card routines, everybody always has fancy ways to bring that single card to the top of the deck. In my version, I'm thinking, how can we make that useful? Rather than just bringing a card to the top, let's give a real-world application. Imagine playing poker, being able to bring any strong hands that you wanted to the top of the deck. That seems like a much better purpose than just bringing a card to the top just because. So, here's my handling. I begin by having the cards shuffled by the spectator, so they mix the cards up, and I ask them to name any card in the deck. I have them name any number card in the deck. They can name anything they want, really, but I like to use number cards so the signature shows up better. So I say, Lisa, name any card that you want in the deck. And let's say, Joe, just give me a card.
7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds. Let's say she uses the 7 of diamonds. What I'm going to do is remove the 7 of diamonds and cull the other 3 sevens. So as I spread through, I steal the 7 of spades, goes behind the spread. I steal the 7 of clubs, there it goes. I'm going to steal that 7 of hearts, goes right behind the spread, and there is the 7 of diamonds. So as I close the spread up, I'll be left with those 7s on top of the deck. What I do at that point is just shuffle 1 card on top of all that. What happened here, so there's my indifferent card on top of my 7s. Now, what happened in this case is the 7 of diamonds happened to be last in the spread, so I was able to cull my 3 sevens first and then get to that 7. Sometimes what will happen is the 7 of diamonds, or the named card, is right in the front. So if that happens, I just adjust my pattern a little bit. I remove the 7 of diamonds, and then I would say, you know, I've done this trick before, and people think that maybe there's more than 1 7, but you can see that there's only 1 7 of diamonds in the deck. And as I continue to spread through the deck is when I will cull those remaining 3 sevens. So at the end of that cull, put the cards down, shuffle 1 indifferent card, and we're caught up. I think I said her name was Lisa, so let's put Lisa's name on this. So we're in this situation now. I take Lisa's card back and I place it on top of the deck, and what I'm going to do is shuffle 2 cards on top of that. Let 2 cards fall from the left half last, and here's the full setup. I have 2 indifferent cards. I have Lisa's selection. I have 1 indifferent card, and then I have 3 remaining 7s. That's your setup. You build it all right in front of everybody. Now, these first phases are pretty traditional, normal, ambitious card routines, so I'll be able to go through this pretty quickly. You should be able to follow. The first thing I do in that shuffle, I say, I want to make sure that during the shuffle your card didn't end up anywhere near the top of the deck, and I show the top 2 cards. They don't know that their 7 is right there. I say I want to make sure it didn't end up anywhere near the bottom. If it was, I would just shuffle again. So now I set up this premise about, imagine if I was playing poker and I needed your card, I would just tap the top of the deck. I pinky count 3 cards and do a triple turnover. All of a sudden, I mean, they just saw those 2 indifferent cards there, and now the 7's on top. You're going to get a good reaction. I do a triple turnover, all pinky counts here. 1, 2, 3. Turn this face down. I insert this into the middle of the deck. I say, let's do it again. Insert it into the middle. I show the top and bottom one more time. It's not there. It's not there. I tap the top of the deck. Remember that tap's important gesture there. I do a double turnover to show the 7 again. 2 card pinky count one more time. I will turn the 7 of diamonds, what they think is the 7 of diamonds, actually a double. Turn that face down. Insert this into the middle of the deck. And this time, the only thing I do differently is I have them turn it over. I tap the top of the deck and say, why don't you go ahead and turn it over? And it actually plays better. Since they're turning the card over, they know it can't be any sleight of hand on the top of the deck. The 7's really there. The next phase is the James Ellis loading move. So let's go over that. I buckle the bottom card of the deck with my index finger, and I'm able to catch a break right there. I now transfer that break to the right thumb. You can see how the thumb is holding that break. And I swivel top half of the deck into the left hand. I'm going to use all of these cards in my right hand to turn this 7 face down. Then what I'm going to do is apparently just outjog this card, or outjog just to show the 7 again, or the signature. But what I'm really going to do is deposit this indifferent card on top of the 7. So we're back at this point here. I turn this face down, and as I push up, I just unload. Can you see that pinky just grabbed that indifferent card? And I've now unloaded this extra card on top of the 7. They don't see that, though. This is one of my favorite moves, actually. I push up and just unload that card. So I've deposited the card there. I'm showing this 7 here. And now, just watch this. This is just great. I take this 7, and I'm just going to apparently turn it over and thumb it off. And it just looks like that has to be the 7, but it's really that extra card that you just unloaded. So all that happens there is as this hand closes, I time it so that it just comes into view as I push this off. They have to believe that's the 7. I insert that into the middle of a one-handed fan, and I place all of this whole thing in the center like this. So they can still see the edge of that card right there. And watch the presentation, I do exactly that. At this point, they're expecting it to be on the top. You'll even hear that guy say, oh, I know how it's done, it's on the top. A double turnover, and it's not there. So you get a nice reaction if somebody says that. You say, well, it can't be there because I didn't tap. And I tapped that card and proved that it all of a sudden came to the top. Just a double turnover followed by a single. Next phase is tilt. So I do a 1-card pinky count and a one-handed get ready for tilt. Just let that card pop up. Again, I've talked about this in other videos. I make sure that that tilt, the gap isn't too large. You got to make sure it's about that. I use the Howard Schwarzman idea here where I insert the card, let these cards stick out of the center, but then actually stick the card into the break. I square up, I square up the deck in the sense that I'm pushing the selection in, but I leave that evidence, the proof, I leave that sticking out. So that's about the middle, right? And square all that up. I then have them tap. I say, why don't you go ahead and tap? They tap, and I turn the top card over. Now, I never like the spectators doing the magic for me, so that's why I say that follow-up line. I say, of course it worked with the deck in my hands, so I'm still responsible for why that worked. Now, we have this situation. We have an indifferent card underneath the 7. So we're going to do this business where we take a double, flip it end for end, and insert it into the middle of the deck. So all that I'm doing here is my thumb grabs at the back of the deck. My index and pinky are keeping that card aligned. I flip it end for end. My thumb pulls open the deck like this. I would never stay in this position for that long, just for explanation purposes. Always pull open the deck with your thumb. Don't just jam this in. All right, so this gets opened up. I insert that, leave it sticking out halfway. Here's what that looks like at speed. I'm going to insert that 7 of diamonds about halfway down. So we can see that we're showing this card one more time. They can see their signature on it. Now, I turn this face down and I leave my thumb protecting this left edge. And I'm also pulling down. That keeps that aligned. I'd also be standing here, so this would be much more face down. I wouldn't have to worry about this edge that the audience could see. I then say, let's tap 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So let's see what happens. And in an effect where they shuffled the cards and they named any card that they want, I'm now pulling out 3 matches to that card. I mean, they have to be amazed here. I also remind them that they shuffled. They say, wait, didn't you shuffle? So I go back to this 7, the one that has their name on it. I'm going to do the plunger move here. That means that I'm going to turn this face down. When it goes face down, my middle finger kicks in that 7 back into the center of the deck. So all that happens in one motion. I've got the 7 face up. I turn it face down, and instantly that 7 got pushed into the center of the deck. My index finger pushes it in, so this portion comes protruding out of the back. That's that 7 of diamonds right there. I now grab that portion, just a little chunk of the deck, pull that right out, place it on top, and side jog this card here. They think that this is the 7 of diamonds. They just saw it a second ago. A double, watch your angles here. So I turn usually to this person so that they don't see that card. A double turn over, and we see a 5 of clubs at the top of the deck. I say, I don't want the 5, but I'll use that 5. I double turn over again. They think this, they just saw that 5. And I say, I'm not going to touch your card. I'm just going to tap it in. You hear that gesture again, that tapping gesture? So we're consistent throughout. I've always been tapping to bring that card back to the top. In it goes. So there's no possible way. And that 7 ends up, I mean, they just can't figure out how that works. But it's a great effect, and I think it notched up Ambitious Card, the ending of Ambitious Card anyway. If you really could do that trick, you'd be able to bring strong poker hands to the top of the deck to win money. So now the trick has a home. It has it's a useful skill to have. When I'm finished with this trick, the person doesn't walk away saying, how did he get that card to the top of the deck? They walk away from this trick saying, I would never, ever, ever play poker with that guy. I saw him put the cards in the deck. I shuffled the cards, and yet he was able to find 4 of a kind at the top of the deck just by tapping it. That's what I want them to walk away with. Anyway, that's Ladanye's Ambitious Card. I'd like to show you how it's possible to control the cards during a shuffle. let's say, for example, I needed the 2 red aces for this. In addition to the 2 red aces, I need you to select a card from the deck, okay?
Okay.
So what I want you to do is you can take any card that you want out of the deck. Just pull it right out. And don't let me see it. That's important. Great choice.
All the way there.
And what I want you to do is look at it, remember it. I'll show it to the camera. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Place it back into the deck near the middle, but leave it sticking halfway out. And remember the card. That's important. Very important. Because it's going to be a moment before we get back to this card. Okay? And it all depends on how well you shuffle the cards, all right?
Okay.
So that's what I want you to do. And are you familiar with this style of shuffle, like you do in your hands like this?
Yeah.
Or you might even do the shuffle the cards like this flat on the table. That's how they do it in a casino. I don't care which way you shuffle.
Okay.
But what I want you to do is don't push the cards all the way together. I want you to leave them separate like this, okay? So
Okay.
cut about half the cards over. Great. And then shuffle those 2 halves together, but don't push them together.
Okay.
Excellent. And the whole reason for all that is I want to show how thorough the shuffle is from top to bottom. And the other point is I can't possibly control the cards if you shuffle the deck, okay? Now you shuffled. What I want you to do is square the cards up. Excellent, yep. And I want you to lose the aces in the deck just the way you lost your card in the deck. I want you to take the ace of diamonds and leave it about a quarter of the way from the bottom of the deck. But face up. Just cut it in about a quarter of the way from the bottom.
Okay.
Excellent. And push it all the way in. And same thing with the ace of hearts, but a quarter of the way from the top, okay? So we don't really know where those aces are exactly. We've got your card lost in the deck, the aces in the deck. The ace, which was the top ace? The ace of...
Diamonds.
I thought it was a heart was on the top.
What's the heart?
Oh my god, I would.
That's okay, it's a heart.
Oh, it's okay.
And the ace of hearts is 16 cards from the top, and the ace of diamonds is 41 cards from the top. Now that I know that information, I can control the aces on the next shuffle. I'm going to cut the cards in half like this, so I now know there's an ace in each half. I'm going to give the cards a shuffle, and as I do, I'm going to count the cards as they fall off my thumbs. And I'm going to see if I can get those aces to land together, one on top of another. And I'm going to do it in just one shuffle. Looks like this. That's all it takes. You know, there's only 3 guys in the world that can shuffle those aces together in just one shuffle. But there's only 1 guy in the world that can shuffle just 1 card in between
Oh my god.
the aces. Hannah,
Get outta here.
what card did you pick?
No, it's the 3
The
diamonds.
3 of, like this? 3 of diamonds?
Oh my god.
Be serious. Voodoo.
So this is the explanation for arcane control. The only thing we need here is the 2 red aces on top of the deck. You can really use any matching pair. I like to use the aces, like if you want to use the red jacks or whatever, that's fine too. Aces are on top. I give them a real simple control like I've done in a lot of other tricks. I just shuffle 1 card on top of those and then double undercut that off. And I'm talking about controlling the aces, or controlling cards during a shuffle. Let's say, for example, I need the 2 red aces. And without looking, I just produce the aces off the top. Or as I did in performance, I can do a slip cut here and produce aces, apparently from 2 different parts of the deck. And again, without looking, it always plays great. Those aces go off to the side of the deck, and I have a card selected from the deck. It's a free selection. The guy takes whatever card he wants. Let's assume he takes this card. Let's say, well, let's not use that. Let's use this card for some contrast. So, and again, so that would be taken. I wouldn't see it. You can watch the performance. I have him show the card around. I hold the deck in my left hand like this. I take the card back, and I insert it about halfway down in the deck. And I say, I want to make sure everybody gets a good chance to remember this card because it's going to be a while before we get back to it. Just one small point here. Notice my left index finger is covering that bottom card of the deck. You just never know what people are going to do. One time I did a trick, and at the end of the trick, that's what he said, oh no, I was looking at the one on the bottom. So, because of that one guy, for the rest of my life, I have to cover the card like that. So remember that card, that's very important. I'm going to use a Jerry Andrus idea here where we apparently just push the 4 of spades back into the deck, but I'm really going to angle the card as it goes in. And when I angle the card as it goes back in, what happens at the left inner edge is that card sticks out over here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And my pinky is going to be able to pull down on that and catch a break above the selection. So one more time. I take their card, I stick it in the middle of the deck, tell everybody to remember it, and then I just push it into the deck and it angles as it goes in, catching a break. I'm going to use a pretty bold control to bring that back to the top of the deck. I mean, you can use whatever you want, but here's what I use. I go right into this particular shuffle here. I split the cards for this in the hands shuffle that people do a lot. But all that I really did was I just stuck my index finger right into that break. So I come back, transfer the break to my thumb. You can see that. I stick my index finger, I'm exposed right now. I mean, this would go really quick. The index finger goes into that break, and I just split for a shuffle. And I'm saying to the spectator, you can shuffle the cards like this in a moment if you want. And I just have to make sure that the selection, the 4 of spades, lands last. I do the same thing, different shuffle, same idea. I split the cards and say, or you can shuffle the cards like this if you want. And I'm not looking at the cards when I do these shuffles, by the way. I'm just feeling that that selection lands last. That 4 of spades is just riding on the top. On one of the shuffles, I will say, just don't, after you shuffle the cards, just don't push the cards together. Leave them separate like this. And what I'm also doing on that last shuffle is finally glimpsing that top card. So I pull it back a little bit. See, can you see that I'm pulling that card towards me?
Yep.
And I just, as I shuffle the cards, I can pull it up just high enough so what I can see is that very index of that card as it falls down. That way I've got a little bit of a safety if they forget their card or whatever. So that card rides on top, and I tell them, don't push the cards all the way together. Leave them like this. Leave them separate. And then I ask them, do you understand? So they'll say yes. Notice in this trick, I really walk them through every single step. I don't just put the cards in front of them and say shuffle. I'll put the cards in front of them, and I always put the cards on my left. So if I'm dealing with a spectator over here, I'll put the cards here and say, why don't you go ahead and cut half the cards over. If I've got my spectator on this side, I put them over here on the left. Because I've got to keep track of where this 4 of spades is going. So let's keep it on this side. I say cut those cards in half and give those cards a shuffle. But remember, don't push them together. So do you see how many times I'm stopping them to prevent them from mixing the cards on their own? So they're going to shuffle the cards, and a few things can possibly happen. So let's go over all the possibilities. All that's really happening, all that you want to happen, is for the card to get buried under a few cards. So what we did here is this. The 4 is here, and a few cards got shuffled on top, 5 or 6 cards. That's the ideal situation. So let's assume that that happens first. They shuffle the cards, and they stop the shuffle just like you said. You take it back and spread the cards out on the table to show how thorough the shuffle is. All that I'm really doing is finding out where the 4 of spades is. So when I spread them out, the audience believes I'm saying, oh, it's not bad here. Maybe you missed a few here and a few here. And I'm just counting these. So in this case, I'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I now know the selection is 6th. What can also happen, remember you've got that 4 of spades on top. 2 more things can happen. They can shuffle the cards and simply leave the 4 on top. So I do the same thing. I take the cards back. I say, that's a great shuffle. You did a great job. Remember, the 4 is still on top here. So I just push the telescoped cards closed, put them in front of them and say, go ahead and square them up. Why don't you go ahead and give them a shuffle again? And I see what they're going to do again. They'll shuffle again. Maybe they'll get the situation that you want where there's just a few cards on top. Or maybe they'll leave it on top again. The more times they do it, the stronger it gets. They keep shuffling the cards and the audience is thinking, well, how's this trick going to work? Those cards are really getting mixed. And if the spectator leaves the cards, leaves the selection on top of the deck 4 or 5 times after all those shuffles, I'll take the deck back and shuffle it into position, maybe 4 or 5 cards down, and say, so how many times do you think we shuffled the cards? So at that point, I will put the card, position it at a known position, let's say 5 this time. As long as I know what it is, it's fine. And the only other situation is this. The spectator cuts the cards and leaves this enormous block on top like this. So that's too many cards to count in this situation. So I would just break apart the packets. I'd say that wasn't a good enough shuffle. Why don't you go ahead and try again? If they do it again and do a really bad, large break on top of the deck like this, I would say, you know, let's just have somebody else shuffle the cards. So any way you look at it, you're just keeping track of that 4. So let's do it for real. The spectator shuffles, and let's say on his first time he leaves it what we said earlier, about 6 cards or so. I would spread the cards down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know that the card is 7th in this situation. So once the spectator buries the card, a few cards from the top, no more than 7 or 8. Finally, we square the cards. Now we're going to lose the aces in the deck. I give them one ace and say, why don't you go ahead and bury the ace in the deck just the way you lost your card in the deck too, which is a total lie. I was the one that put the card back in the deck, but I like changing language later. It kind of subconsciously changes their mind about how the card was lost. So I say, why don't you bury this ace face up about a quarter of the way from the bottom of the deck. I also hold my hand here like this, putting a little downward pressure on the deck. If you don't do that, they're just going to do this, and it looks awful. So I push down here and say, go ahead, quarter of the way from the bottom, and they'll do just that. I give them the other ace and say, go ahead, lose that the way you lost your card also. They will leave that a quarter of the way from the top. So the only thing that matters is I know where that selection is. I know it was 7th in this case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I also want to make sure that the ace, the uppermost ace, isn't returned above wherever their card is. So if you say a quarter of the way, you're pretty much guaranteed that it'll always be underneath their selection. Now I'm going to steal that 7th card under the spread. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I align the 6th and 7th card. My thumb clamps down and my fingers pull that selection underneath the spread. I continue to spread until I reach that ace. Got to make sure that the cards are getting spread above your guide card, in this case the selection. I spread down to the top ace and I say, well, obviously the ace of hearts is 15 cards from the top. And you'll be amazed, the spectators fall for that. They say, how could he know that that's 15 cards from the top? As long as you say it confidently, they'll believe you. I steal that ace of hearts underneath the spread. So there it goes underneath the spread. So now the ace of hearts and the selection are riding underneath the spread. I spread down to the bottom of the deck for that other ace and I say, oh, and obviously there's 28 cards in between the aces. And again, they react. I'm going to reinsert these 2 cards, can you see those? Underneath the spread?
Yep.
Underneath the lower ace. So they get fed back in underneath. When they get fed below the lowest ace, the trick's done. The method is all done here. The sandwich is complete. They don't know that though. So I say that there was 28 cards in between the aces, and the audience goes, how does he know where all those cards are? The audience just saw an ace at the top, they just saw an ace at the bottom, and they also know that they shuffled cards. They shuffled the cards themselves. Could be anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 times. So they have to believe that there's no way you could know where that selection is. I cut the cards in half at this point, and there's a great little pattern line here. I say there's an ace in this half, there's an ace in this half. They just saw that, so they have to believe that there's an ace here at the top of this card packet, and there's an ace at the bottom of this packet. And you can see the pattern I used. I talk about shuffling the cards once and getting the aces to land together. Now, you can do a few different things here. You just can't do a real shuffle because you may add extra cards into this sandwich. So if you wanted to do a genuine shuffle, you would just have to have cards fall off the left half until you pass the sandwich. So it's you can see it flash right by. There it went, and then you could continue the shuffle from there. So that would look like this. It's a little bit of an off-centered shuffle. You can do that, or you can do what I do, a Zarro shuffle. If you do a Zarro shuffle, it guarantees that you can't mess up that sandwich. The Zarro shuffle is taught in card college. Great place to learn it. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'm simply shuffling off from both sides, and I shuffle off until I've got about 4 cards on the left side. The right side has a block at this point, and I'm just going to push forward into that break. And then you just disengage. You disengage the entire shuffle. It just fell apart at the back. See how they're no longer interlaced? And I'm simply feeding this half into that break. Obviously that was broken apart and looks awful, but let's show you a good one. I cut the cards in half. I'm going to shuffle. There's my break. I feed cards in. I disengage and push the cards together. Here it is in real time. And it looks like the cards really got mixed. Okay, so I say I'm going to trap that. I'm going to have those aces land together in just one shuffle. Now the funny tag ending here, the line that gets the laugh. I say there's only 3 guys in the world that can shuffle those aces together in one shuffle. But there's only 1 guy that can shuffle just 1 card in between the aces. So they know what's happening here. You ask them what was the card that they selected, and they're going to say the 4 of spades, and you show that 4 of spades. After all of those shuffles, you still found the card. And what really blows me away about this trick is they believe it. When I first created this trick, I thought they'd go, oh, nice, you found my card. when I finish this trick, they really buy the story. They really think, how did I find those cards? How did I count those cards off my thumbs? And how did you keep track of the card when the spectator shuffled? And how did you get it exactly in the center? And how did you know how many cards were in between the aces and that the ace was 13 cards from the top? So you get a whole lot of credit for keeping track of these cards, and you really didn't do much of anything at all. But they really do, they're quite impressed by this trick. So either way, that's a great trick that you can just do anytime, as long as you got a performing surface. It's called Arcane Control. Thank you.
I'd like to show you a trick I did once for a couple that did not turn out the way I expected. So I'll show you the trick and see if I can recreate all the details of what happened, okay? We need 2 cards for this. So as I riffle down the side of the deck, what I want you to do is say stop whenever you want, okay?
Stop.
Right there? I said we needed 2 cards for this, the 2 of spades and the jack of diamonds. And Hannah, what I want you to do is sign your name in really big letters across the face of that 2, okay?
Okay.
And it's important for the trick that you put your phone number on the... I'm joking. But you know what happened? One time, this woman actually did put her number on the card. So we don't need your real number. Just use mine. Here, take this.
Okay.
My number's 4. A good time. Go ahead. Just make something up. Just make something up. Now, I wasn't surprised that she gave me her number. I mean, look at me. But I was surprised that she gave it to me in front of her boyfriend. And I was thrown off a little bit. And I started doing the trick with her card. And I forgot that he even picked the jack of diamonds. I did the one where I take that 2 of spades and leave it more or less in the center of the deck. It's about the center. I mean, so it's obviously not on the top, but the bottom. That's the one where I just take the deck and shake it like this, and in an instant, it comes back to the top. I did the one where I take that 2 of spades and leave it more or less in the center of the deck, right? And again, that's the one where I just take the deck and shake it, and that deuce ends up in my pocket. That's when the guy got a little upset, and he reached over and he ripped the deck of cards out of my hands, and he started spreading through the cards, and he said, I know how you're doing that. You have more than 1 2. Well, I had to remind the guy that there's only 1 2 of spades with your girlfriend's name and number on it. Now that's when I think he got really upset, because he took that 2 and he tore it up and he pinned it under his hand. John, can you hold out your hand like this and pin that card onto the table like he did? He handed me his jack of diamonds and said, hey, Houdini, why don't you show me some magic with my card? I thought about it for a second. I didn't have my 2, I didn't have her name, and I didn't have her number. So I did this. Don't take your eyes off that jack, because in an instant, you see, I turned it back into a 2, and I told him he can have his card back. Turn your hand over, show it to everybody. Turn it over. Turn it.
Get out of here. That's amazing.
It's your lucky day, you know why? Got a souvenir for you. You can keep that. Souvenirs are $15. You've got 5 souvenirs. I mean, the envelope plus the 4 pieces, it's $75. You can just send it right there.
Wow, I don't even know what to say.
That's crazy.
This is the explanation for the player. This is a transposition effect that was inspired by Dave Williamson's effect. My contribution to this effect was to give it a plot, give it a reason to do. So here we go. We need a regular deck of cards for this. I'm using a blue back. Underneath the cellophane of a card box, I have another duplicate card, the jack of spades with a matching blue back. We put this underneath the cellophane. This starts up on the table off to the side. I need a pen for this, and I also need this little coin envelope. All right, the coin envelope, usually I'll put my business card printed right on here. Today we just have the blank ones. But this card goes in your right pants pocket. That's for your cleanup at the end of the trick. So after a previous effect, I have finished a trick. I've got the reaction boiling from that last trick. I place the cards down on the case, talk for a little bit. We talk about the last trick. When I'm ready to start this trick, I pick up the box and the cards together. That allows me to reach into the case, pick up the deck, and I'm also grabbing that extra jack of spades onto the bottom of the deck. But there's really no heat on this because the trick really hasn't started yet. So you're simply picking up the cards. Here's what I do at this point. I've got to build this setup, and I build it right on the fly from a shuffled deck. So the first thing to do is move that jack of spades underneath the spread. This is the duplicate jack of spades. I just pull it right off the deck and start spreading cards on top of it. The first thing that I've got to do is grab any indifferent card. So let's say we grab this queen here. I'm just going to steal that underneath the spread with a spread call. So we see that queen of diamonds just go right underneath And I'm going to continue spreading. What I'm looking for now is the jack of spades, the real jack of spades, the one from the regular deck of cards. And there it is right there. Once I take the jack of spades, I'm going to call an indifferent card, let's say the 9. I want a contrasting card, a red spot card. I call that card, and here's my setup at this point. I've got the 9 of diamonds on top. I've got the regular jack of spades. I've got the queen of diamonds, an indifferent card that no one will ever see. And I've got the duplicate jack of spades. So that's how you set it up on the fly. You could simply set these 4 cards up in advance if you wish, but that's what I choose to do. This starts on top of the deck. I'm going to give the deck a overhand shuffle that retains that order. So what I'm doing is undercutting about half the deck. I'm going to run 1 card in jogged and then shuffle off. And that bookmarks my setup in the middle of the deck. Now that's exaggerated, so let's do that again. In performance, that would be much smaller, about that. That's about how much I use. So at the end of the shuffle, no one's really going to be able to see that spot, but that's marking off where your 4-card setup is. I shuffle it into the middle of the deck and I leave it there. What I'm going to do in a moment is riffle force that setup. I'm going to pick up and lift up on this in-jog with my thumb and just hold a break. So I'm holding a pinky break there. 4-card setup underneath the break. So for this trick, I say I need 2 cards selected. And I also want to say about this particular effect, we need to use a woman and a man for this. So this trick is designed only for that. It will not work for one person. It will not work for 2 guys. We need the woman and the man for this because the presentation fits that. So I say, let's do a trick and we need 2 cards for this. So can you help me pick 2 cards? Mm-hmm. Excellent. As I riffle down the side of the deck, I want you to say stop whenever you want. And all you're going to do here is a classic riffle force. So say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
Right there. No matter where she says stop, you stop at that point, leave this open, and all I'm going to do is pick up at my break at the back. But it appears as though we're breaking the deck right where she said stop. Now, I had mentioned that we need a man and a woman for this trick. You never know where they're going to sit. In this case, Kat's sitting on my right. Sometimes she'll be sitting on the other side. So your setup has to be such that the woman always gets the spot card, and the guy always gets the picture card. So just make sure when you deal the cards off the deck that the woman gets the first card, the guy gets the second card. That way you're guaranteed to get, the woman gets the single card, he gets the duplicate. When we're done, the setup is still here. I have to place the cards in my right hand back on the bottom of the packet. So now my setup, the indifferent card and the jack are back on top. If you watch the performance, you can see what happens at this point. I asked the woman to sign the card. So do me a favor, just sign your name across the top of the card and save a little bit of room underneath. Go ahead, sign your name.
That's right.
Yep. Save a little bit of room underneath for your phone number. And that's a joke in the trick. So you can see all the banter that I did here. So just make something up real quick.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what she makes up. You can have some fun here and you see what happened in the thing. I don't think that number's real. All right, so at this point, the patter is that I was so thrown off by the fact that I got Kat's number that I forgot to even include Steve's card. I forgot that Steve had picked the jack of spades. At this point, we're going to do a small ambitious phase. I take that 9 of diamonds. While I'm showing this card, my left hand does a 1-card pinky count. So I'm just going to let 1 card pop right off, and I set up for tilt one-handed. Oh, and a quick note on tilt. I see this a lot. I see guys doing tilt with a very large break like that. It just looks awful. It looks like the card's going on the bottom of the deck at this point. So when I do tilt, it's a very small break. It's about quarter of an inch or so. We're going to show the card. We're going to take that small break with tilt. I'm going to insert just like this. I like to have those cards sticking out of the front, so it apparently seems as though the card that I'm inserting has done this. Real case is this. Now with tilt, the only evidence that that card is really going back into the middle of the deck is this evidence right here, and the fact that we have this depth perception idea here. So after the card goes in, don't square up. Leave this out. Leave that proof. And I say, that's about the middle, right? And that they're going to say, yes, that does look like about the middle. But we know the card's actually second. So I square that up and I say, I did that trick where, oh yeah, I bring it to the back of the top of the deck. 2-card pinky count, tap the top, double turnover is going to show her card back on top of the deck. The second phase of this is I'm going to do a double turnover again, take what they apparently believe is the 9 of diamonds, but it's really that indifferent card, and I'm going to insert it more or less in the middle of the deck. I'm going to square that 9, or what they believe the 9 is, into the deck, but look how I'm doing it. I'm doing it from above like this because my hand is already in position to palm, so I'm not using my index finger like this. So as I push this in, notice that I'm right in position for that palm. and I say, I did the one where I push your card in the middle of the deck. The moment that the card is flush, I just execute a one-hand top palm like that. So let's go over that one-hand top palm for a second. My thumb is curled across like this on the back of the deck. My four fingers meet at the front of the deck, so I'm in this grip right here. If I just deal the card over, my thumb just pushes this card to the right, and what happens is it pivots off the pinky. And when it pivots off the pinky, it angles at the same angle as my palm. After I'm in this position, my ring finger just pushes that card up into my palm. All right, so the ring finger is actually pushing the card deep into the palm. So back to the what the audience sees. I've got this indifferent card that I've got going in the middle of the deck, and I say, that's about the middle of the deck. I did the one where I just give that card a little shake, and the palm's done. It's up into my palm there. And this time, I produce it from my pocket. So you simply reach into your pocket and pull out that 9 of diamonds. All right, so you get a good reaction out of that as well. They saw the card come to the top. They saw the card come out of your pocket. At this point, I need to do a browy reversal underneath this duplicate Jack of Spades here. So I don't have any motivation to do that myself, so telling a story, as you can watch from the presentation part of this trick, I have the spectator do that. I don't have him do it, I have his actions are justifying it. That's when the guy said, oh, I know how you're doing that, you're using more than one card. So the spectator's actions here is what I'm mimicking. I riffle up the back, grab a break under one card. I undercut about half the deck and turn this face up, place it on top, but keep the break. Everything gets squared up, maintaining that break. I take everything off the bottom of the deck, turn that face up. And all that did there was turn the entire deck face up, except for this Jack of Spades, which is now reversed at the back of the deck. So the patter here is, that's when the boyfriend reached over and took the cards out of my hands and said, hey, I know how you're doing that. You have more than one 9 of diamonds. So you can spread all the way through, just don't make it to the back of the deck. At that point, I pick up the 9 of diamonds, show it one more time, and place it face down on the bottom of this. And that means that when you turn everything face up, you've paired the 9 of diamonds and that duplicate Jack. So they don't see that, they just see this. So I show the card here, I place this on the bottom of the deck, I turn everything face up. That's when the guy got really upset. That's the pattern. What I'm going to do now is apparently rip this 9 of diamonds. I'm, again, acting out what the spectator is doing in this story. This is a double turnover. So I grab the 9 and the duplicate Jack behind it. Just pinky count 2 cards. I turn this over and deal off a single card, and I actually tear this card into quarters. And of course, we're tearing up the duplicate Jack of Spades. So this gets torn up, but you have to be careful when you tear cards because it's very easy to want to get that angle up there. So make sure you keep your hands very flat like this. I tear this up into quarters, and Steve, can you hold out your hand over the table like this? I have him hold his hand out, and then I place the torn duplicate Jack, which he has to believe is that torn 9 of diamonds, underneath his hand. Also, notice I didn't put the deck down. I keep the deck in my hands for this. If I had put the deck down now, I'd have to pick it up for no reason. So the deck is still in my hands. I pick up his Jack of Spades. The pattern here is that's when the guy gave me his card and said, do some magic with my card. So I'm going to turn this Jack into that 9 of diamonds, which you believe is under his hand. So this Jack goes on top of the deck, and what I'm going to do is pinky count. Oh, I have to justify why that gets there. I have no reason to put this on the top of the deck, so I have to come up with one. I say I didn't have the card, I didn't have her name, and more importantly, I didn't have her number. Anything. All I want to do is gesture to this hand, and that gives me a reason to put this card on top of the deck. So whatever your pattern is, you put this on to make a gesture here. That gets the card on top of the deck. We're going to do Mark D'Souza's shapeshifter change now. So I pinky count 2 cards at the back. I'm going to grip this card, this double, at the index corners with the right hand. So that goes here. I have the card gripped at the outer right-hand corner, inner left-hand corner. With the left hand, I'm going to pull down on the inner left corner and the outer right corner. When I pull down, the card will spin around. You get a great visual change off the deck. Once this changes, I drop it back on the deck and thumb it off onto the table. And I say that if I have that 9 of diamonds, I let him have his card back. And he can turn that over, and of course, he has that Jack. We have an amazing transposition at the end. It's a great story. He ended up tearing up his own card. I did it for a reason. I made this card valuable by having her write her name and number on it, so there's a good reason to put it back together. There's one last thing, though, and that is this. We have to clean up this duplicate Jack on top of the deck. So, Steve, put your hands back there. So I just got done with this visual change. I put this on the table and I say, and notice how I've turned to Steve to protect my angles here. And I say, go ahead, show me what's under your hand. And when he reveals this, everybody in the room is going to look at that. And that is your cover to do your top palm over here. So nobody sees that top palm. Let's do that one last time just so we can see it in action. Remember, no palm yet. Go ahead, turn that over, show it to everybody. And there's the palm. There's no way anyone's looking at you at that moment. Then I say, I've got a souvenir for you, because we have to get rid of this palmed card. That's why we put that envelope in our pocket. I reach over, I reach into my pocket and pull out the envelope, leaving that playing card behind. And I say, I've got a little souvenir. It's not much, but I'd like you to have this. And you end clean. I give this to him as a souvenir, and also with your business card printed on the back. It's always a nice way to hand out your business card. That's for you, and you're ended clean. You have a 51 card deck with no duplicates in it, ready to perform some more. So that is the player. I hope you get a chance to perform it.
I'd like to show you another one, but I don't want to use this deck of cards. It's a brand new deck of cards, and the trick I'm going to be showing you in a moment, we're going to be writing all over the card, and I'll be giving the card away. So I've got a deck of cards just for this trick. Well, actually, I should be more specific. It's what's left of a new deck of cards. I've got about 30 cards or so, okay? And I've always been fascinated by con men from the early 1900s. My favorite was Count Victor Lustig. He was known for selling the Eiffel Tower. Not only was he known for selling the Eiffel Tower, he was known for how well he could forge people's signatures. Sometimes he would practice signing someone else's name for 2 or 3 months before actually forging a document. Now, I appreciate that much hard work and dedication. But I think a much more sophisticated way of forging is to leave the original signature alone and then just manipulate the document. So I've applied that concept to this next card trick. Now, Andrea, I was going to ask you for your signature, but I doubt you trust me with that by now. So what I want you to do is just initial this card. Initial this ace of clubs like this. That's all I want you to do. But save a little bit of room underneath, okay? So give me your initials right there. Go ahead. And then what I want you to do is just draw a little picture, anything that you want. It makes no difference. The smiley face. Sorry. What a vivid imagination. That's okay. Don't worry about it. But the whole point is next time you see that ace of clubs, you know that it has to be your card. It's important to realize that once that dries, that does not come off. Now, can you hold out your hand over the table like this? Because I'm going to give you that ace. And go ahead, push your hand down. Now, I gave you a black ace. You remember if it was the ace of clubs or the ace of spades?
I'm sorry.
Do you remember what it was?
I think it was clubs.
Ace of clubs. That's what I thought too. So I'm going to use a red ace so there's no confusion. That way it's easy to remember that you have the ace of clubs and I have the ace of hearts. It seems to me it's easier to leave both of our initials untouched and just manipulate the playing card. Because if I rub like this, you see, I can get the ace of clubs. Lift your hand, turn it over, show it to everybody.
What? I don't even know what to say about that.
How did that even happen?
So this is the explanation for forging ahead. This is really one of my favorite tricks. It's also probably one of the easiest tricks to do in the book. One of my favorite effects is Darwin Ortiz's signature effect, and it's a signature transfer. And I think that's a great magical thing. You're making use of the props that you're already using, such as pens. There's a lot of signature transfers out there, but you're usually transferring signatures to the backs of other cards. So you move a signature from the back of one card to the back of another card. So I've included forging ahead because you're moving a signature from the face of a card to a face of another card. So needless to say, it plays pretty strong. So we're going to do a lot of prep here. So let's get started with this. I'm going to need about 20 indifferent blue-backed cards. It doesn't make a difference what these are, as long as I just use old decks of cards for this. You just make sure that there's no aces among, even the ace of spades. You don't want any aces among these 20 cards. You're going to need a rubber band. You're going to need a pair of scissors and 4 aces. I need 2 aces of hearts for this and 2 aces of clubs for this. And the easy way to remember is just make sure before you start building these props that all of your cards are blue. I did this trick once and didn't realize that one of my aces was from a red back deck, and the climax was pretty interesting when not only did the signature move, but the color of the ace changed. And she asked me how I did it, and I just said, I don't know, it's magic. And from then on, I always made sure to double check all of the backs have to be blue. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is place an ace of hearts on top of this packet, and we're going to place an ace of hearts, the other ace of hearts, on the bottom of this packet. So the situation now is we've just got one ace on top, one ace on bottom. We're going to take an ace of clubs, and we're going to bury it somewhere in the center. All right? We close all this up, and what we're going to do is put a rubber band around this. Now I use this, I'm not sure the number, maybe 64 I want to say, as long as it's got some width to it. I can wrap this rubber band around 2 times, and I've got a pretty firm grip on these cards. Nothing's going to come apart here. I also take the wraps out, the twists out of this band. I want this to lay flat, like that. See how I've got that laying flat across and there's no twists? On the back it doesn't matter, but on the face of the card. And also notice we're right in the middle of the card. So the next thing to do is to initial one side of this. I'm going to take a Sharpie marker and I'm just going to put my initials on one side of the rubber band. I always use this right side here. So there's my initials. The next thing we do is make this gaff here. This is the Out to Lunch principle by Ed Bagshaw. What I'm going to do is cut this ace in half, but I don't cut it directly in half. I cut a little offset down by the stem almost. I use the stem as my guideline. So I'm going to cut this card right about there. I could save a lot of money by cutting it directly in half, but in a moment you'll see why. I want as much of that center pip showing. So the other gaff, we get rid of that. We don't need it. I'm going to place this gaff, this half a card, on top of the side that my signature's on, or my initials. So I just feed this into this break, and the rubber band is going to hold everything in place. You can readjust this, and what we end up with is this. I have to hold this packet, so either I'm holding it in my right hand and my thumb covers, or if I hold it in my left hand, my thumb covers the pip. And everyone in the audience has to believe that I'm holding a packet of cards that just happens to have the ace of clubs at the top. Now, this is a lot of setup, of course. You've got the 2 aces, or the 4 aces. You've got the 20 some odd cards. You've got the rubber band and the cutting. So it doesn't sound very practical, but you can make it practical. All that I do is I make these in my spare time. So when I set up to do a close-up show, I will set up maybe 10, 15 of these and put them all in a box. That way, when I need to do this trick, I just reach into the box, grab one of these packets, and I can do it. I can carry around 2 or 3 of these in my jacket. So you can say that the trick isn't practical because there's so much setup, but you can make it practical. You just make these up. All right, let's get to the effect. I wanted to mention earlier about cutting the card a little bit offset. You can see that if I had cut the card exactly in half, we'd only see the very top portion of this pip here. But when we cut it offset, you can see almost the whole club is sticking out. All right? There's one last test we do with this before we put it away in our pocket, and that is this test here. I hold the packet entirely by this half card gaff here, and that guarantees that it's going to stay together in my pocket. So that's one last test you want to give it, so that when it bangs around in your pocket, this gaff doesn't come out. And we're all set here. I always place this in my pocket the same way. I always put it with the red ace facing back and with the cards facing my body. If I put it back that way, when I reach into my pocket and pull it out, I know to have my ring and pinky finger covering that up. Every time, same way. All right. Now, when you're performing, you'll be performing with a regular deck of cards. You don't have much reason to just put this down and start performing with these cards in your pocket. Why not just do the transfer with this deck? So you need a good reason to get rid of these cards. So I say, I'd like to do another trick, and we'll be writing all over the cards and ruining the cards. So I don't want to use this. It's a brand new deck. So let's put this away. And that's it. You've made a great reason. You're going to ruin the cards, so why not put this nice deck of cards away? And every time I do the trick, I always give the card away. That's the powder line there. So that you've got this reason why you're bringing around this small packet of cards that looks like it's about 20 cards or so. And that's all the powder. You can see in the performance section how I handled that. So I'm stressing, it looks like we only have about 20 cards, maybe 22. The patter is about how many cards I'm holding, but what I'm really doing is showing them that ace of clubs without saying, hey, look, that's the ace of clubs. Eventually, you'll put this down on the table, face down, and if you watch the presentation part of this, I talk about Count Victor Lustig and how he was a con man and one of my favorite con men that I studied, and he forged signatures and such. So the presentation makes sense. You don't have to use that. You can if you wish, but it's a very fitting presentation. If you're going to move signatures, why not talk about somebody that forged signatures? Count Victor Lustig didn't forge, but he was a well-known con man, so you can kind of lie in that sense. And also I wanted to say, if you want to use that presentation, you can, but some of us do perform in more in a walk-around environment or a bar or a wedding or something like that, where you don't have time to go through that big presentation. So you can simply say, hey, I want to show you how to forge signatures, and pull this packet out and do the trick like that. You don't need to steal that presentation word for word. So either way, eventually I say that I'd like to do this trick. I bring out my pen and I say, in a moment I'm going to ask for your initials. I pick up this packet and I hold it like this, so that my left thumb is covering up that ace of hearts pip. I use the left ring finger and pinky again to pull the cap off, really to just get the ace of clubs in their face yet again. So I do it this way, and I come down and say, in a moment I'm going to ask you to sign here. Now I need them to sign on this side over here. The best way to get them to sign over here is take up all the writing on this side, take up all the space. So I give the cards my initials. Again, same as the initials that are underneath. I'll pause the effect for 1 second just to show you that I've matched my own initials underneath. So that's what I do. I sign my initials and I say, I want you to sign over here, right here if you could, and I want you to save a little bit of room underneath. So I'm showing them where I want them to initial the card and where I want them to save some room. So I give them the cards, they initial the card like so, and I say, draw a little picture. And they can draw anything they want. Say they draw a star. The reason for that is, it's just so amazing that I was able to move these signatures or initials to another playing card, that they may suspect that I figured out I wrote their initials on another card or something like that. So drawing that little picture really adds a lot to, it must be the same exact card. Either way, at this point, I need to move this packet into my other hand, but that's difficult to do because I have my thumb essentially trapped covering up that pip there. So I come up to blow on the ink. And when I come up to blow on the ink is when I transfer that packet into the other hand. Now my right thumb is covering that packet. The next thing you do is I'm going to transfer this grip so that my right hand is pinching this card now. I'm transferring to this grip. And again, you do that while you're here. So I come up, I pinch that card, and that's when I transfer my grip so that my index finger and thumb are pinching this card on top of the index now. And again, that's perfectly justified to come up and blow on that ink they just wrote on it. I also like to very gently rub the my initials, and because this is the gaff, you don't want to rub too hard. And I want to rub these initials to make sure people know that that ink does not come off. I ask the spectator to hold out their hand like this, and one more time I come up and to blow on that ink, but what I'm going to do now is just pull straight down. So when I pull straight down, the ace of hearts comes out, and my gaff stays pinched behind. But what they see is this. I just blow down or pull down like that, place the card face down on the table, and tell them to put their hand on top. They have to believe that's the signed or initialed ace of clubs. There's just no way. They just saw it a second ago. So now what we're going to do is get rid of this little gaff here. What I do is hold the packet in my right hand pinched into this thumb crotch here. So my thumb is riding across the entire top. My index, or the base of the index finger, is riding across the back of the deck. The reason is we're going to palm this gaff in a moment. So if I hold like this, when I take away the cards, I'll be left holding that right in palm position. I pull the rubber band off and clip the rubber band with my pinky. Now notice I'm going to just take this portion of the cards into my left hand, and what comes behind is that palm card stays right there. It's the easiest palm to do because you've got half a card. So my justification here is to put this rubber band away. So I come off with this and go right into the pocket. Remember, nobody cares about the rubber band, so they're not giving you any heat on that. I say that I need another card for this. Let's use a red ace so that there's no confusion. That's the pattern. And when I spread down, I'm really spreading to that black ace in the middle. So it's a little tricky. You're saying I need a red ace, and you spread down and you up jog without anybody seeing that. Now you've said a red ace, you've up jogged a card. They should believe that that's a red ace, although like I've said, you've got the ace of clubs out jogged. Remember on top you've got this ace of hearts here too. So I pull this out, and place it on top, and I do a double turnover, and everything's true. Everything is what I said it was going to be. I said we need a red ace for this, and there it is. So at this point, I usually ask someone else to help. I say, Bill, can you remember that John has the ace of clubs, and Sarah, can you help me remember that I have the ace of hearts? And that'll help everybody kind of understand who has what right now, because there's something very amazing about to happen. So I say, if I want those initials, if I want to steal those initials, I do a double turn over here and take that ace into my hands, actually the ace of clubs. And don't put this down. I hold this packet because I have to palm in a moment. I come over and I rub the card like this on the back of the spectator's hand. The pattern here is, I say, it seems easier to me to leave those initials alone and just manipulate the playing card. They were just holding a moment ago a initialed ace of clubs under the hand. So when they see ace of clubs with no handwriting on it, they're not sure what to expect. I place this on the table and I say, turn that over and show it to everybody. But I'm timing it so that when they turn that over, I'm going to palm this card. So under the reaction, this guy turns this card over and he just cannot believe what's happening. He's seeing my initials and his initials, but now it's on a new card. The moment that turns over, my top palm happens over here. All right? Classic top palm idea. What I'm doing, fingers at the front, my thumb just pushes over, my ring finger pushes that card up into my palm. And notice the angle that I'm at. You have to watch your angles when you're palm, so I'm talking to this person when I palm to give me the best cover for that. So either way, he's looking at that, and I want that rubber band. Remember that rubber band I put in my right pocket? I take the palm card, that's how I clean up. I reach back, get that rubber band back out, and you're completely clean at this point. There's no duplicates in here. They've got these two cards to examine. I usually put the rubber band back around all this and tell them they can keep everything. So that is my handling for forging ahead. Again, it's one of my favorite effects in the entire book, and I think it's one of the easiest to do. Yes, there is a palm in it, but it's a half of a card, so it's not that hard to do. But all of the work is done in advance. So when you pull that packet out, there's not much technique involved. So please give that effect a shot, and I hope you enjoy it.
Are you familiar with blackjack at all?
Yes.
I'd like to show you a method of cheating at casino blackjack. To ensure a random cut, the casino offers the player a plastic cut card that they can cut into the deck like this. I think I've come up with a way to beat that cut, but I want to practice it with you before I try it in a casino. So go ahead and name any card that you want. Does not matter.
8 of hearts.
The 8 of hearts. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to take the top card and cut it into the deck like this. You can cut it all the way down near the bottom, the middle, or if you want to cut it way up near the top, you can do that. And no matter where you cut in, believe it or not, you're going to locate the 8 of hearts. Now, I know you have no idea where that 8 of hearts is in the deck, but that doesn't matter if I'm cheating. Now, this time I cut, how many cards is that? 10 cards or so from the top? Sure. When you cut in this case, the Jack of clubs, you can cut that Jack of clubs closer to the middle if you want. You can cut that Jack of clubs closer to the top if you want. The bottom, middle, makes no difference. Take that card, cut it into the deck wherever you want, and leave it sticking halfway out. Now, don't let go of the card. Put your hand right back on it, because that forces me to cut at exactly this point. Don't let go. You said what? The 8 of
Hearts.
8 of hearts. Ooh, very close. Very close, but that's still a miss. Hang on. 8 of hearts. I get a second chance right here. The well, 8 and heart. Oh, I don't know. Hang on a second. You said the 8 of hearts, right? You know, actually, I don't see the 8 of hearts anywhere in this deck. Can you take a look at that card in your hand and show it to everybody?
Oh my God.
Maybe I just need to practice a little bit more.
I didn't feel it.
Didn't feel a thing.
I didn't feel a thing.
I'd like to demonstrate one of the most difficult methods of cheating at cards. And I'm talking about a center deal. If you've never heard of it, I'll explain. A center deal just means that a card cheat can deal himself any card he wants directly from the center of the deck. So to demonstrate, I'll use the 4 aces. Now, the only downside to a center deal is that you have to know where the cards are before you can deal them to yourself. That and a center deal takes about 20 years to learn how to perfect. But I want you guys to help me remember where the aces are in the deck, okay? The ace of clubs, Andrea, you'll remember the ace of clubs is 11 cards from the top, okay? John, you remember that the Ace of Hearts is 21 cards from the top. Chris, you'll help me remember that the Ace of Spades is 32 cards from the top. And Hannah, you can remember that the Ace of Diamonds is 43 cards. You guys remember all that, right?
Yeah.
Just joking. Don't worry, I got it.
How many?
I'm the pro here. Now, I'm going to deal out a 5-handed game of draw poker. And every time I deal to another player, I'll be dealing off the top of the deck. But when I deal to myself, it doesn't do me any good to deal off the top. It doesn't do me any good to deal off the bottom of the deck. If I want those aces in my hand, I'm going to have to deal them to myself from the center. I said the Ace of Diamonds was where? 43 cards. I said that the Ace of Spades was where? 32 cards from the top of the deck. I said that the Ace of Hearts was 21 cards from the top, and I said that 11 cards from the top, right? Yeah. So that's a center.
What are you doing?
That is a center deal.
What was that?
Now, in draw poker, you always get 5 cards. Do you need a moment?
Maybe.
In draw poker, you always get 5 cards. I've already dealt myself the 4 aces, so I only get 1 more card. But Hannah, I want you to tell me what that card is. So
Okay.
can you just look in the deck, but I want you to name anything that you want, but name something from around the center of the deck, okay? Anything, just name it out loud.
The 3 of clubs.
The 3 of clubs,
Yes.
okay? Remember the 3 of clubs. Now, the aces were relatively easy to deal myself because I knew where they were before we started. How are you? You're right. The 3 of clubs, though, is going to be a little bit more difficult because I don't know if it's anywhere near the top of the deck or I don't know if it's anywhere near the bottom of the deck. But actually, I have an idea it's around the middle of the deck because that's where you named one from. But let's say I needed that 3 of clubs to win a lot of money. I'd have to deal to myself from the center. Now, you said the King of Diamonds, right?
No.
What would you say?
3 of clubs.
Oh, really? For a second, I really thought I missed it there. Let's take a closer look at the pinky count. I get a lot of questions online about this. Apparently, there's not a lot of places that you can learn this move, either in books or DVDs, so why not put it in mine? So the pinky count, if you're familiar with how to count the cards like this with your thumb, that's essentially what we're doing here at the back of the deck. I don't know if you can come in close on that and see the pinky is just moving through those cards one at a time. Okay? So let's put the deck down for a moment and talk about the concept. And we'll just use one card for this. Let's just take this card and we're going to pinch it right in the thumb crotch right here, right at the base of this index finger on this bone right here. Right about there, about maybe a third of the way down on the left edge. This allows me to pinch the card here, and my pinky can now grab this inner corner. And see how I can pull that card off like this? That, in essence, those are the muscles I need for the pinky count right there. So if you can do this, you're going to be on your way to learning this pinky count. Now, the first thing I would suggest is doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Just grab one card and develop a feel for this, all right? The next thing you can do is grab a few cards. Now, I'm not saying that you should count through the cards singly just yet, but can you still, the card's a lot thicker, can you still get that springing action with a thicker group of cards? And perhaps you may count through the cards in groups or so. Maybe a few cards fall off, but just developing a little bit of strength here. Add a few more cards. You would do this over the course of a couple weeks or so. Now I've got about half the deck here, more than half the deck. Do you still have enough strength to pull down with that pinky? Those are the muscles that you're trying to develop here, okay? But again, it all comes from this original grip. Hold one card, see if you can get that card to pop off. All right, let's take a look at the pinky count with the whole deck now. The biggest tip I can give is right here at the back of the deck, this bevel. If you look close, you can see that I've beveled the back of the deck. It's a very strong bevel right there. And that allows my pinky to pop cards off one at a time. All right? But again, you've got to develop the strength in these fingers back here, especially in your pinky, to be able to get those cards to pop off. But if the deck is not beveled, it's very, very difficult to get those cards to pop off one at a time. Now, to illustrate this point, I brought a book. It's the only one I could find in such short notice. It's my book. You're familiar with this bevel already because when you leaf through a book like this, notice how these pages are beveled. That's the bevel that we're putting in the deck. And notice how that allows my thumb to pop one page off at a time. That's the same concept that we're using to bevel or to go through the cards one at a time. So now look again.
At the back of the deck, we've got this strong bevel, and my pinky is doing what my thumb was doing a moment ago, just popping off one card at a time. All right? So either way, that is a much closer look at the pinky count, and it's, again, one of the most important moves in all of card magic. It is in every single one, almost every trick I think I do, but in Confident Deception's book and in this DVD, it's in every single trick that I teach. All right? So there you go. There's the pinky count. Let's talk about the false shuffle. Now, the false shuffle that I use is a push-through shuffle, and it looks like this. We've got a deck of cards that's in order here, new deck order. The false shuffle that I like to use sometimes is this. Standard stuff. You should be, if you're buying this DVD, you're probably familiar with this move already. I just want to go over on some tips that you may not be doing already, or something that help you make it look a little bit better. So I gave the cards what looked like a shuffle and a cut, and of course the deck is in the same order. So let's go over a few things. First, the concept. I'm almost positive that everyone out there, if you're buying this DVD, you're familiar with this concept. The cards are shuffled together like this, they're riffled together, and then all I do is pass this small half here, the side on the left, the original top, goes through at an angle like this, comes out the other side. And then, of course, when I strip these out, I'm making that look like a cut. So how do we make that more deceptive? Something I see a lot of magicians do is they make the angle too strong. They go through at a very wide angle like this. And I think the audience can pick up on that. Maybe the cards didn't get mixed, or they might be suspicious about something. So the first thing is to reduce that angle that the cards go through. So how do we do that? I keep the cards parallel. I keep the cards very, very parallel. I don't want to get too angled. I come together like this. The cards are all squared up. And when I push, I keep that angle as small as possible, so you don't see the cards go through. Something else. I just want to go over a bunch of tips with this particular shuffle. The next thing would be to always use new cards, a brand new deck of cards. If you have a brand new deck of cards, you're going to have not very much friction at all as you go through these halves. You can see as I pass through, there won't be any binding during the strip out. Another point that I can give is a bed of cards. So I'm going to pull the top half of the cards to the left. When I start the shuffle, I lay down a bed first. This is the original bottom half, or the right half. I lay down about 10 cards or so. Then I start the shuffle. This means that I have a smaller amount of cards to pass through the other half. So it's going to be easier to push through those cards on that small bed of cards. One more tip. You have to make sure that when you do your false shuffle, the push-through shuffle, that the original top card gets buried. See, notice how I've got this top card buried under at least one? The reason is, after I do this push-through, I want to make sure that the strip out looks like a cut. And if I'm doing the strip out like this, you can see that this apparently looks like it's coming out of the middle of the deck right now. So that will be the strip out action there. And it'll look like you're pulling it off the bottom or the middle of the deck. If you don't do that, let's back up and take a look at that. Now I've got the original top card still on top. After I go through, this doesn't look like the strongest cut in the world. It looks like I'm taking cards off the top, putting them back on top. So there's a few tips that can help with the shuffle. Let's take another look at the actions afterwards, the strip out, the actual strip out. So let's go over the whole shuffle, what we've got so far. We're going to cut off a small group of, or about half the deck over to the left. I shuffle a small bed from the right hand side. I shuffle the cards together. I always make sure that that original top card gets buried. I start to push the cards together. Everything's nice and square and aligned. I'm going to have my ring fingers pushing at the outer edge here, which is going to allow for a small angle as the cards go through. My middle fingers provide cover, so there everything goes through. You can see this is what I'm hiding. You can see the brief right here. Now, the strip out action, you want to make sure that it's not too fast or too slow. If you go really fast, it creates a little bit of tension, and if you go too slow, people can kind of see what you did. So you have to find just the right amount of speed for that to go by. And a good way to figure that speed out is to give the cards a real shuffle. So I'd give the cards a real shuffle followed by a real cut. You see how fast those cuts are right there? That's about how normally I give the cards a cut after a shuffle. I don't want to shuffle these now because they're still in order. But that is the speed that you're looking for. Look at that. That's the speed that you're looking for when you do these cuts. So now let's do an entire false shuffle sequence together. Here's the cut, here's the bed, there's the shuffle, original top is buried, I push the cards together. I go through like this, and then the speed of this cut looks like that. The last bit of business is those up the ladder cuts. So let's take a look at those real quick. We'll just speed right through this and get right to the up the ladder. The first thing I do is pull everything out. I place this entire half side jogged. So you can see I'm side jogged to the right. The next action is to take half of this top portion off the bottom. So my right hand is taking the bottom half of this portion here. This comes out and I place it flush with the original portion of the deck, and then I'm left with this sticking out, this brief here. When I pull this out, place this on top, and you're simulating a running strip cut, but really what happens is the deck is back in its original order. So that's a closer look at the push-through shuffle. Let's take a closer look at the spread call. This is a great utility move that allows you to set up the deck right in front of the spectators without them knowing. Anytime you have a reason to go through the cards, to remove aces or to remove the jokers or anything, you can set up nearly anything. So let's start out by stealing the aces. The very first thing that we're going to do is steal the first ace. And the first ace is a little bit, the technique is a little bit different. What I'm going to do is align the ace and the card right before it, the 9 of spades in this case. Those cards get aligned. I just bring them together and my left thumb clamps down. So now I've got essentially a double. Underneath, here's what happens. My right fingers can pull that card all the way to the right. But you can't see that because the cards have been aligned. So what the audience sees is the 9 is there and I've pulled that ace underneath the spread, but you can't tell because the 9's covering it. Now once I've got that ace pulled underneath, the cards that I'm going to continue to spread go above that guide card. You can see this ace right here. The cards are getting spread above that. And I'm going to spread down until I reach the next ace. Now, of course, for explanation purposes, I'm leaving this hanging down. When you do this from performance, this would be pushed up as far as it can go. Now, let's talk about the next card that we're going to steal, this ace. Notice how when I split these cards, I create this shelf. Now, in a real call, I don't split the cards, but for now, I just want to make a point. You can see how I have this independent control of this shelf right here. This King of Hearts, the King of Hearts side of the shelf, I'm going to push past the next ace. So you see this left edge right here? This left edge goes past the Ace of Clubs. So the Ace of Clubs goes behind the spread. Once the ace goes behind the spread, my fingers, my right fingers again, can steal that card. Let's take another look at it on the next one. I'm going to spread down to the next ace. And again, there's that shelf I'm talking about. I've created this shelf of cards here. I'm pinching, these are the previous 2 aces, are pinching this part of the spread. In this case, the Jack of Hearts is going to go beyond. The left edge of this card goes past that ace. Once that ace is completely out of view, I'll do it face up this time, so you see what the audience sees. Once that goes out of view, the fingers can pull it behind the spread. So now the ace has joined these other 3. Let's take one more look at it for the last ace. I continue down through. Again, there's the ace. This time I won't break the deck. I've just created this shelf here with that 3. See how this is all completely independent? The 3 of hearts, this left edge of the 3 of hearts will pass past the Ace of Hearts. Once it goes out of view, my fingers at the back here can pull the ace free, and then I continue to spread through. And of course, when I'm done, I'm going to have all the aces together at the top. Let's take just one more look at it at, still slow, but at a speed that you can see what's happening. Aces get scattered throughout the deck. So here's what happens. One more time through. I spread through the cards. Once I come to the very first ace, I'm going to use the card just before it, in this case the 9 of diamonds. Those cards get aligned. The thumb clamps down. The fingers can pull that behind the spread. Remember, it has to free the spread. So when I continue to spread, these cards here are going above that guide card. I'm going to continue spreading right here. I make that shelf that we talked about. The Jack of Spades is at the edge of that shelf. The Jack of Spades must go past the Ace of Spades. Once it goes past the 8 of Spades, see how it just vanishes behind the spread? The Ace of Spades is here now. I continue to spread. Let's do the same thing for the ace of clubs. There's that shelf we keep talking about. Spread the 2 of spades past the ace of clubs. Once it's passed, I can steal that ace. And the last one I'll do at speed. We'll go through and watch that ace of diamonds just vanish behind the spread. It was quick. Did you see it? So now I've got those 4 aces at the back of the spread. So that's a much closer look at the spread call. Just another Thursday here in Troy with Dino Petrocelli, one of the best photographers. We've got Nina Jade, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. We've got an entire crew. We've got poker tables, poker chips. We've got 18-year scotch. We've got everything. Let's do it. Today we're shooting in this abandoned warehouse out in the middle of Troy, New York, and we're going to get some amazing photos. The last time we did a photo shoot, we were in a studio, and we got some great shots, but today we decided to go completely overboard. The textures, everywhere we look, it just looks amazing. It's so easy to work with Dino. He tells me what to do, I do it, and the results are always amazing. Always amazing.
Jason Ladanye, who's an awesome magician with cards, he has a book out. So he wants to do another book. He wants to do this really cool shoot in his warehouse, playing poker. And we're going to have smoke in here after. So now we're just trying to coordinate our outside lighting with our inside lighting, with our flashes. So it's not an easy task. Plus, we had to bring generators in and the whole thing.
This light bulb is actually going to be hanging in the middle of the table. It's going to be swinging back and forth like you see those old school, like it's in a dungeon or this whole place that we're at. This is just what it's going to look like, and it's going to be awesome.
I love seeing stuff like this. It's fun. It's fun to see just how it's all done, and then to see the final finished product is what's really fun.
This is the real challenge of this shoot right here. Finding a place to hang clean clothes and not getting glass in your feet. Anything for a good photo, right?
Right.
And finding a place to change. We haven't figured that one out. Just yet.
I'm a freelance model from upstate New York, and this is my first time working with Jason. So today we're doing a magic card shoot, and my role is to be the sexy James Bond girl. Basically just the arm candy, and my job's to light the cigar for him.
Get here.
This is my favorite makeup artist.
Oh, thanks. I've been Dino's working makeup artist for probably over 3 years. I come along to anything that Dino needs, so yeah, just to make you pretty.
And what brought you here?
Jason, actually. He wowed me, frankly. We did a photo shoot together a while ago, and it literally had my jaw drop 10 times. Like, amazing stuff, this guy. So I signed up. Why not?
My boy, right here.
This guy right here.
It's a new look. I think this is something that could catch on.
Totally what we're going for today. Do you like it?
Oh, yeah.
Should I sex it up a bit?
It is hot.
This is extra.
Oh my God, what am I paying you? Somebody double it.
We're spilling out for hours on end, and we've got this little bucket that will do the job. Gotta love it. Only on photo shoots.
Had a little trouble early this morning. The police showed up and asked us if we had a permit and all that, which we don't. So I had to kind of make it sound like it was just a quick in and out picture. I told the guys, we're just gonna take a picture, 20 minutes. And he bought it. We've been here for maybe 5 or 6 hours. They haven't come back. So it looks like we're gonna get every single shot that we tried for. Joe, this is what it's really like. Sweaty mess where we're racing against the clock and bumps.
I brought all my lights. I busted my ass, and we're not using any of them. We're just using my little hot lights. Just to the right a little bit. Turn your head. We're dealing with the lights forever changing. It's hard when you got a lot of people. That's why I have a little captain. Takes the edge off. Ah, that's looking really good.
Look at that. If that's not absolutely beyond my wildest dreams.
cards down a little bit. Nina, you're looking at the cards? Holy shit, look at that. That's looking great. That is friggin' ridiculous. I'm loving this shit, man.
That's actually a great shot, man.
It is going amazing. I've seen some of the photos and they're more than I could have even anticipated. And that's why I like using Dino. Came here with an image in my mind and he has blown it out of proportion.
Joe, like for real? The outtake was better than the. Never mind.
Take one, we're gonna do like 40 takes. And I say that's, I don't know which one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do that again with all the train wrecks. You ever seen a train wreck? You just did. So that's my version of the, it was inspired by seeing a Jim Swain effect, and Jim Swain's was F you. Thanks, Obama. Let's see, how does this trick start again? Yada, 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 your mom's a
El gato zebetos con, no, el gato con roja zebetos. El Dorito muchacho diablo. That's all I know. Yeah, Doritos. Dorito.
All right, this is the explanation for Lucky 50. It's one of my favorite effects. That's my handling for the setup. Hope you get a chance to go yourself. And 2, check 1, 2. Diamonds, jack of clubs. Joe, I hope you're not filming me reading my own tricks.
Nope, not at all.
For a split second, it looks like this. That 4-card group is really only off the deck for a split second. So, oh wow. Thanks, Obama.
Can you reach into the deck, take any, this is a trick I do all the time. There's going to be no pattern through it, because I do these all the time.
Okay.
Can you reach into the deck?
You do this all the time?
And that is the secret to being awesome. If you don't have this, there's lots of ways to get around it. You can simply bring a copy, Xerox copy of the handwritten notes. You don't, go. You can't find one of these. Go yourself. Which includes all 3 of those moves. We can spend a little bit more time talking about each one, get more in depth, and I can your mom in the. Are you ready for fun? Is that on tape? Is that on tape?
Yes.
What are you gonna do? Not like it? Go yourself. You can still find decks of cards with these inside. I'll say that again without throwing up in the back of my throat.
I just don't understand.
It hurts a little bit, doesn't it?
It does.
It's painful. I mean, it'll keep you up at night.
This is the explanation for through and through. Another effect that it actually is one of the most fun performs to effect. Wow, really? It's not a joke. That really happened. Now, there's no way that they could possibly know motherfucking good. Now, there's no way that they could know what card. How could that be? We talked about this in Ladanye. It's okay if I'm mispronouncing my own last name. That's a hell of a trick. That is a good trick.
I'm not wearing any pants. I think that's why it's funny. We'll edit all this out, though.
Fly still up. So they're going to be completely paralyzed. You don't even know. I don't even know what the I'm saying. Are we still rolling?
Yep. You don't palm just like as if you're palming the card.
I don't know what that means. Fuck it, we'll do it live. that's it for us today. We're gonna
Palm it. We're gonna palm it.
we'll do it live.
We're gonna palm it.
I know what you're wondering. You're probably thinking, yeah, but what do these tricks look like without any clothes on? So, for the bonus section, we're gonna shoot a lot of these tricks in the buff. Hopefully, this can be known as one of the best card magic videos ever made.
I hope so.
That's what we're doing. I'm not making that up.
What are we doing? Okay.
Oh my God, we are done.
So anyway, that's my explanation for the setup. And still go f yourself.